It's the iconic moment, in fact, when we, after the conference, we sum up, look around with nostalgia, say thank you and goodbye. Though, of course, there will be much nostalgia. I'm not going to summarize what we have seen and heard during these 4 really rich days, for I could never do justice to the wealth of scholarship, the variety and quality of the research and experience that we have seen. This has perhaps been the largest, if not this program of all FEL conference. And yet I think I may safely say that both on Zoom and among the physically present audience here in Tirana, there was neither tediousness nor fatigue. This is only one of the features that make this conference rather special, and I'm sure every participant will have learned something new, been inspired by a new experience, and will take away something that will help and accompany them in their future endeavors. This was the Foundation for Endangered Languages 25th anniversary conference. Alongside the conference, we were also planning to celebrate this event, our silver jubilee, in fact, on the 10th of December, which is the International Human Rights Day. And we were hoping that many of our members would attend both events, first in London, then here in Tirana. Unfortunately, as a result of the continuing effects of the COVID pandemic, we have had to postpone the anniversary celebrations, and many changed their planned face-to-face participation in favor of a virtual attendance, therefore cancelling flights and other arrangements. So all we can hope for now is that though it seems we should continue to hold hybrid events, we will be able to have normal physical presence, at least from next year. So over the past 25 years, we have had 25 conferences. This means 25 different themes relating to the study of endangered languages. This is remarkable in itself, as few scholarly conferences around the world are organized around a single theme at every occurrence. You can check the variety of themes on our website, of course. This is, among other things, a tribute to the dedication, ingenuity, wealth of knowledge and depth of thought of our local organizers. Although we work together as conference organizing committee, FEL always gives priority to the ideas coming from them, from our local organizers, as they alone know what is closer to their needs, closer to their local interests, and nearer their concerns and requirements. This year has been no exception. It is no surprise that Arbëresh has figured most prominently in the program. The theme of diaspora and endangered languages, perhaps more than any other, has brought together several areas of study, each constituting a body of scholarship independently from the others, and being neither collateral nor accessory to the theme of endangered languages. We have seen that diaspora studies have been a large field of research for several decades now. We have discussed the central role of diasporas play in the development of identity, in the strategies, choices, and mechanisms that people in diaspora develop for the purpose of shaping their identity, including through the use of material culture, political participation, individual psychological and emotional and deeply personal involvement, and indeed through language. Thus, of course, is evident. But this is not only because, as the Foundation of Endangered Languages, we have a vested interest in promoting the subject. This does not, of course, mean that, for example, identity will disappear completely from the diaspora with the eroding or extinction of a language in diaspora. The identity will not disappear completely if the language, for instance, becomes extinct or is seriously eroded. Identity will continue to exist, but it will be another identity. To all intents and purposes, however, this amounts to the same result: the disappearance of the initial identity and the looped. FEL's role as watchdog of language endangerment is not just to document endangered languages before their death, giving them the last rites, as it were. though unfortunately that is part of the job, but to deploy efforts to assist the language communities, as well as our present concern, the diaspora communities. This does not, of course, mean that, as I said, for example, the identity will disappear completely with the eroding or extinction of a language in diaspora. Identity itself will continue to exist, but it will be another identity. And to all intents and purposes, however, this amounts to the same result, the disappearance of the initial identity. FEL's role as watchdog of language endangerment is not just to document endangered languages before their death, giving them the last rites, as it were, though unfortunately that is part of the job, as I was saying for those who heard, but to deploy efforts to assist the language communities, as well as assist our present concern, the diaspora communities, in slowing down and preventing the process of endangerment and death, and ideally in reaching the revitalization of the threatened languages. We do not decide, let alone dictate, what route a diaspora takes in shaping its own identity, but we have a conviction. It is that language is important to the individual, it is important to the community, it is important to humans, it is important to the planet. There may be debates about this, of course. There have been now many books which report and describe language endangerment, and several have been mentioned during this conference. To me, however, the one book which speaks most eloquently about the problem is by the distinguished French linguist Claude Agege. And the title of this book is Halte à la mort des langues, which literally translates as put a stop to language death, implying right now. But unfortunately, the English translation of the title is one of the most inept I have ever seen. This title is On the Death and Life of Languages, something with a sort of a medieval ring, which does not begin to cover Yale University Press with glory. It is all there. So instead of discoursing the fate of language like around a campfire, Agege says, act now, stop language death. And although FEL's manifesto is written in a polite and mild language that would please the lawyers, I think we should all, FEL members and friends, all of us at this conference, all our networks of concerned, not just linguists or academics, but concerned citizens and members of the human family, adopt as our motto, our manifesto, these words by Claude Agege, stop language death. To quote, or probably paraphrase rather, another promising world citizen, I would say, alt or blah, blah, blah. So thank you, Professor Agege. Thank you, Greta Thunberg. So beyond these four walls and several Zoom screen panels, there is of course a world out there. And we are delighted to have been able to come to Albania. And I'm sorry for all our friends and colleagues who have had to cancel at the last minute. We all, I think, perhaps with the exception of a few Italian colleagues, knew next to nothing about the new Albania. We now know a little more, but we do not presume to think that we can fathom all the cultural wealth of a country and its citizens in just a few days. But this has been for us a small opening, which I hope will lead to numerous future collaborations and indeed friendships. I also hope that Albania, our Albanian hosts and friends, will have gained at least as much from this event as we have from this very short sojourn. The hospitality that our Albanian colleagues have extended to us is amazing in its uncomplicated and boundless generosity. Our hosts, Executive Director Diana Castretti, Professor Edmund Tane, all the staff of the QSPA, whom unfortunately I would like to name, but there are too numerous to list here for fear of being accused of abusing my time allowance. But suffice it to say, I am not naming you, but you are not nameless. We will take with us your names, your faces, your smiles, and above all, a lesson in generosity and disinterested friendship. We also now know that the diaspora is not just a bunch of prodigal sons and prodigal daughters who left home, deserted the family, and become unwanted guests who have overstayed their welcome in their host land. Diasporas indeed are dynamic communities which continuously enrich both their homeland and their host countries. They often preserve a culture sometimes threatened at home, and they very often enrich their host countries by bringing in a new, sometimes different culture to add to the host diversity. In just a few days, we'll begin the International Decade of Indigenous Languages, which was proclaimed by the United Nations. A couple of years ago, FEL and a few other organizations, such as the United Nations Association, Wikitongues, and Survival International, jointly celebrated the similarly proclaimed International Year of Indigenous Languages. From the success of the International Year ensued this International Decade, which will extend from 2022 to 2032. FEL plans to help launch it on the occasion of our own Silver Jubilee in due course. And we hope that not only you will be there, but you will also, during this decade, accompany us on that journey with your own initiatives, projects, events, commemorations, and celebrations. I would like to end this conference by wishing you all fantastic luck in all your endeavors, success in all the initiatives in favor of endangered languages. And I renew my thanks to our Tirana hosts and to our colleague on the FEL Executive Committee, Eda Derhemi, who has worked tirelessly, deployed titanic efforts to ensure the success of this conference while continuing to teach, to correct exams, and to watch over her students at the University of Illinois, as well as tending to the needs of her husband and daughter. I hear they're very supportive. Thank you, Eda. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you all who attended by Zoom and enriched this conference, albeit from afar. Thank you all here at Godina Liria. And I have to say again, please keep safe, and hoping to see you all again soon, hopefully face to face. And I bid you farewell, goodbye, until next time.